Hello, welcome back to Sex Therapy Thoughts with Elle. I'm hopping on today after watching last week's episode of And Just Like That. This show has come so far from Sex and the City and not in a good way. But yet, I keep watching it. Don't know if I'll ever stop until they stop. They probably should stop just to cut me off at this point. So anyway, I wanted to get on today and talk about communication, because something that stuck out to me in the most recent episode, Silent Mode maybe, I can't remember what it was called, but it's one where Aidan comes to visit Carrie and Gramercy Park at the house, and I was just like, how could they have miscommunicated so poorly? How could they have no idea what the rules of their relationships were, even though he was going to be gone for 5 years? And I was like, oh wait, I am a couples therapist, and this is actually pretty common. Communication is probably one of the number one things I work on with couples. And I was actually thinking about it, and I was like, oh, communication's key. And I was like, actually, communication is low-key foreplay. And I don't mean that in like the dirty talk way. We can do a whole separate video on that. But I just mean like everyday communication, the strength of communication between two people or a person and multiple partners is so important. It is such a big deal, y'all. It is vitally important as part of a healthy sexual relationship. And so I was thinking about that in the context of Carrie and Aidan, that they'd had this conversation where they weren't clear on what the boundaries were with this like arrangement they have. And also just thinking about it like, that I don't understand their relationship in general. I'm so confused, so I can't even imagine. I guess theoretically they'd be having conversations we don't see, but it's a very confusing situation. So wanted to talk about how communication is foreplay. You might have heard of the idea of simmering, which is basically like if you imagine like you're going to make pasta and you fill the pot with water, and then you put the cold water on the stove, and then obviously you turn the heat on, and then it starts to slowly simmer until it boils. Simmering is the idea that like a couple can kind of stay connected so that when it's time to engage in a sexual activity of any kind or have sex, it's easier to get to boiling. It's pretty hard to go from like a cold, flat pot of water to boiling without something in between, right? So it's kind of that idea. And I think of communication as like a huge part of that, whether that's like checking in with your partner regularly to see how they're doing, being clear and direct in your communication. So we want to avoid using passive aggressive communication. Things like, oh, I thought today was trash day. That's passive aggressive communication. When what you really mean is, hey, can you take the trash out? So, right, two very different sentences. That's an example of that comes up a lot. I would say mind reading comes up a lot, like assuming you know what your partner's thinking or feeling instead of just asking, hey, how are you feeling? What do you think about this? That's a really big one. Projecting, where I project my thoughts onto you, like you and I are talking and I'm like, oh, like I'm feeling like, oh, I had this stain on my shirt and it's all I can think about. So like I'm assuming that's all you can think about. That's projecting. It's also a little bit mind reading, but it's projecting because I'm thinking it first about myself. So these are just some really common ones. Catastrophizing, that can be another one where one little thing happens and it blows up into something else. You left the socks on the floor, so that means you're a messy person who doesn't care about me, right? So these are all the kinds of things that can come up as part of communication that can be really, really, really important in a relationship. And I'd say it's probably one of the number one things I work on with couples and even individuals, to work with improving our communication skills. How can we pause, check in with ourselves, and then use helpful communication to move the situation forward, rather than getting kind of caught up in one of those traps and then having a meltdown, or getting completely off track. Now everyone's further apart than they were before. So communication is really important. I think also I recommend a lot of, if we're talking about, that's just general communication, but if we're talking about communication around sex and sexuality in general, or specifically, I would even say having those conversations when like everyone's clothed are really important. So I wouldn't wait to have a really important emotional conversation until my partner took their clothes off. That would be a pretty challenging time to do that. So if you want to have a conversation about ethical non-monogamy or things you are interested in or not interested in, introducing kink into the relationship, STIs and prevention, whether you want to use condoms or a diaphragm or whatever, dental dam, having those conversations before as well. And I know those can be really hard conversations to have, but I consider that part of this communication as foreplay. While everyone's dressed, while the situation's not so vulnerable for people, hey, what are your hopes? Like, what do you need to feel comfortable when you're having sex? Is there anything that I'm not doing that you're missing? Is there something you're interested in trying? I want to make sure we're both safe. Like, how can we do that in a way that feels comfortable for us? So those are just small examples of ways. Put those in your own voice, obviously. But yeah, different ways you can have communication around this stuff. Carrie and Aidan. Hey, you're gonna be gone for 5 years. Is this open or closed? Are we seeing other people or not? Are we sleeping with other people or not? Are we having emotional connections with other people or not? What are the rules around STI prevention? I think for them, obviously the pregnancy question has sailed because I think she's postmenopausal, but that would be something too if one of the partners is able to get pregnant. Talking about that as well, especially in these days where healthcare is harder and harder to come by. So these are all really important things and very hard topics, but very important topics, and why I think communication is foreplay, because when everyone's on the same page, you can have a lot more fun when the boundaries feel really clear and really understood, and there's a strong connection that really starts here and here, before anywhere else. There's also, if you're interested, a very good book. I love this book. You will hear me recommend this over and over again, called With Sprinkles on Top, written by Dr. Stephanie Gorelick. It's amazing. It's for couples where one partner might be kinky, one might be vanilla, and it's about introducing it in a way that is non-threatening. It's a fantastic book. But she has in there sexy Mad Libs, which I also think are really fun, which are, and like if you buy the book, you get the PDF. So it's basically like a fun way to kind of talk about what you're interested in or things you kind of like or don't like. So something like that can also be fun too. Or you can like write it and share it with each other. Communication doesn't have to be verbal, it can be written as well. Just be conscientious of your tone when we write stuff. Sometimes it's hard to get that across. Or of course, working with a therapist or coach to kind of help mediate those conversations as well. So yes, communication is very, very, very important. In fact, I'd say it's maybe the most important, one of the most important things. It goes a big way in establishing and maintaining those emotional connections, keeping everyone safe, making sure everyone knows where the boundaries are and what is on the table and what's not. And of course, I'm talking about a healthy, consensual adult relationship here. And it's really something that Carrie and Aidan need to work on, and it's frustrating me so much that I want to reach through the screen and bring them to couples counseling, because I am so confused how they have not had that conversation yet. So yeah, let's, fingers crossed. Honestly, I kind of just want them to break up so Carrie can be single, because I think the show would be more fun. And I'm kind of sick of the whole Aidan thing, even though I liked him more in the original series. Or that they figure out their communication issues and they're able to figure out a way of ethical non-monogamy that works for them. I mean, they could be monogamous as well too, but for the purpose of that show, I'm not entirely sure how that would work. So, okay, those are my thoughts. Communication as foreplay. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is that, you can let me know about Carrie and Aidan's relationship. Do you like it? Do you want them to break up? Are you here for it? Any questions you have around communication and relationships, feel free to drop them in the chat. Like, subscribe, and follow for more sex therapy thoughts. Bye.